So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiancé MK. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing Season 6, Episode 16 of Before the 90 Days. In this episode, Amanda goes the whole 9 yards to keep Razvan, Jasmine catastrophizes her immigration interview getting postponed, Dempsey and Statler make a plan for the future, Nico proposes without a ring, Cleo cries throughout Christian's whole departure, and Riley gets some shocking news from Violet. As always, we'll end with our Students of the Week, class dances, and life lessons. All right, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today?
I'm not doing too bad. I got through a pretty busy weekend, so now I have, I don't know, my regular busy work and week. It's just, it's one of that time where it's just like all the days seem both fast and slow at the same time, right? It seems like all my days are just like, what? That happened this morning, and then I look back and I'm like, something had happened a couple weekends ago, and I'm like, that was only 2 weeks ago? It feels like it was 2 months ago.
Yeah, I definitely am starting to see the monotony of the school year about now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, all right. Well, I don't know if all of our groups are monotonous because it's kind of towards the end. So if anything, this was I felt overall kind of a boring episode because people were just kind of wrapping up their storyline.
It usually is. Like usually the last episode of any season, and this is the last episode before the tell-all, is the wrap-up one, right? But I feel like it's especially true when we're on Before the 90, where everybody just goes home. And so we have these super long, like drawn out airport scenes that it's just like, oh my God, just come on, let's go.
Right. So I guess one of the few things that happened here, it had to do with Meisha and Nico. So Nico takes Meisha to a market. She's really distracted, wanting to see a random bird in a cage and not paying attention to the fact that Nico is trying to find the right moment to get down on a knee and ask her to marry him. Nico finally gets Meisha's attention and asks her to marry him. She is clearly in shock and is just not answering him. Nico says yes or no, and Meisha finally says yes. Nico doesn't have a ring because he wanted her to be able to pick out her own ring, but also he didn't want to get stuck with a ring if she were to say no. They immediately go to a jeweler so Meisha will have a ring. Meisha is trying on a couple of rings, and they find one that Meisha keeps insisting is simple, which I don't think is a good thing. And Nico is not happy with the price, which is about $2,000 US. So he proceeds to haggle with the jeweler, which Meisha finds the complete opposite of hot. Nico is able to talk the jeweler down to about $1,200, and he gets down on a knee again to ask Meisha to marry him with the new ring. Meisha is getting ready to leave, and Nico and Meisha are both getting sad. They're not sure when they'll see each other again and get married as soon as possible. Meisha is waiting for an annulment so she can get married in the Catholic Church. They are in a holding pattern until they hear back, and Meisha can't apply for a visa until they get the annulment. Nico takes a whiff of his armpits, and Meisha points out, that's a gross habit. Nico says he can get a visitor's visa, and Meisha wants him to do that so he can stay for 3 months while they wait. But Nico doesn't want to do that because he thinks living with Meisha that long will be too great of a temptation. Nico tells Meisha just to pray to God that the annulment will happen fast. Meisha says it's simple. They'll just set boundaries and not have premarital sex. She wants to spend more time together and doesn't want to just see him if and when the annulment happens. At the airport, Meisha is in tears because she is leaving her heart in Israel. All right, so it's mostly goodbye. Nico doesn't seem to want to spend more time with Meisha before they get married. Do you really think that Nico is going to really give into temptation, given how, asexual? I mean, I don't want to say asexual, but, non-sexy? They haven't even gotten close to anything hot and heavy.
Did he even feel tempted? At all, this whole time, he spackled the mud on her.
Yes, that was not sexy.
He did nothing he did was particularly sexy at all. They had slept in different beds. I don't think it would be that. I mean, I definitely think that he's just very much all right, I paid for that. Let me know when to pick it up. I'll be there then. Do we need to spend more time together? No, not really. I'll pick it up when it's ready. Let me know when your annulment's ready, and I'll be at the shop. He just is so transactional about that kind of stuff. I guess.
I don't know. I don't find him. He keeps on saying like, "See, I'm romantic," and it's like, are you?
He has the general shape of what romance is, and then doesn't nail the execution. Right?
Yes, I could see that.
You could totally propose in the street and have her be swept off her feet and totally romantic. You can't do it like awkwardly, talk a lot, surprise her when she's like, are you doing what I think you're doing? And then say, by the way, I don't have a ring, and then get up and proceed to haggle someone for a ring. Like that.
Yeah.
It's the little details, right? It's the things that and maybe that one totally struck me as a cultural thing, right? Because
sure.
The American cultural thing is the romantic thing to do is what? You want a ring? That's the ring you want? Money is no object. We're getting it for you. Let's make it happen. How much is it? There we go. Right? That's what's romantic for us. Whereas it's certainly I really do associate Middle Eastern culture with you haggle over literally everything. And maybe just non-American culture. Like maybe I'm even taking that too specifically.
I don't think it's even the haggling part though, but I think it's definitely like cultural for not bragging about or even revealing how much you spend on something, right? I mean, and I think it's definitely evolved a little bit more from like when I was younger, but I remember my parents were very like,
oh yeah, for sure.
You take the price tag off of everything, right?
Absolutely,
if you're giving it as a gift, right?
Or if you can't take it off, you like black it out with a marker.
Right,
yep.
Right, because you don't tell people how much you spend on something. So that's the part that I kind of was like, ooh, that's like the not sexy part is like knowing how much you actually spent on. She seemed to like it okay, but she kept on referring to the ring as simple, which to me like meant just not. I don't know, maybe that's her style. I have no idea, but I didn't really take it as like a positive thing when she kept on going, oh, it's so simple.
Yeah, I mean, I think she was trying to, I honestly do think she was like, I know you don't have that much money, and I'm not going to say, I'm going to really emphasize that what I want isn't something that's super expensive, right? And I think that's why she was like, I like simple. I love simple. This is just so simple, and that's what I prefer. I prefer that to some of these more lavish ones. Now, to be fair, I also think that some of the more quote unquote more lavish ones, a lot of people think are just gaudy, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want something gaudy, and you don't want somebody going overboard on it. But like, I don't know. It's like you should have some kind of idea what they want. I feel like, I don't know. It just seems weird that you propose and then get up and are like, all right, let's go find a ring now. Like immediately, let's go. It just, I don't know. It's. And then I don't know. I just don't understand. And I also thought it was very weird that he was like, oh, and we did this, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is right here. Isn't that so sacred? That's the church that they built where Jesus was crucified. So it's like Jesus died right here, and isn't that romantic that that's where we got engaged? And it's like, is it? Like,
yeah,
that's where he died. Like, I don't know about that. But at the end of the day, for most of these couples, almost all of these couples, I would say, the ones we see this time, I'm always just like, why did you say yes? Like, what do you see in this guy?
Right? Yeah, agreed.
All right. So keeping with that theme of what do you see in this guy and why did you say yes? Let's go with Amanda and Razvan.
Gosh.
That's not the guy, though. So anyway, Amanda's on full recovery mode to make up with Razvan. So she's worried that he's going to give up on them because that's basically what he said. He said he was unsure about their relationship last time. So she gets him a bunch of romantic junk and places it all on the table as a care package. So like always, she's just putting forward this effort when she feels vulnerable. So he comes home and she shows him all the things in the care package. And she gets a thankful peck before they start getting ready to go for the fancy restaurant for their last night dinner and more or less figure things out. So Razvan says that his heart wants to keep fighting for this relationship, but his head says this is a toxic relationship and you're not good for each other. You should listen to your head. Yeah. Amanda's anxious about this last dinner because she knows that at the dinner, he's either going to break up with me or we're going to stay together, and I don't know what it is. So anyway, they get to the dinner. They each get a glass of wine and a salad, which I don't know bugged me because they were like, "What would you like to eat?" And they're like, "A salad and wine." And I feel like who orders us? Like, you can't do that. And Anyway, the food is on the way, and she already is starting up the conversation because she just can't sit around being patient with him being unsure. So by bringing up, I mean directly asking, like, so, do you want to still be in a relationship with me? So he says that he loves her, but also you're my worst enemy. So he's scared that things will not work and, things aren't going to change. So she says that they will. She'll change. It's just hard for me to talk to you. So let me put my feelings down on a card. So he reads the card, and it literally is just a bunch of different ways of saying, I love you so much, like back to back to back. Like, you're my knight in shining armor. I love you so much. You're my one and only. Like, you're not saying different things in here. But I thought it was interesting that one of the things that was included was, you're my one true love, which seems problematic considering that this whole season she's been getting over her dead husband.
Right. She also mentioned soulmate, and I was just like, same.
Exactly.
But that was the first thing I thought of. Was like, didn't you say your deceased husband was your soulmate?
Yes, exactly. So anyway, this card seems to have touched him, and he says he didn't know that she could be so romantic. So she asks again, and he says that he loves her so much and he wants things to work. So he says in an interview that this is the Amanda he got into this relationship for. So anyway, she does get to some nitty gritty stuff. There were issues they had earlier about him when he came to visit and things. So she tells him that he should visit for Thanksgiving so he can meet the kids and her family because everybody's going to be together then. So in the meantime, he says, I bet you'll be missing Billy, who I presume is Razvan's penis.
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely got that.
So the next day, Amanda is sad that she has to leave and tired from all the please don't break up with me sex that they had last night.
God.
So sex that resulted in there being panties on the floor that Razvan's like, these are mine. And she's like, you have panties? He's like, no, they're mine now. I'm keeping these from you. But anyway, so she looks back on the trip wishing that maybe they would have been better if they didn't fight all the time, ultimately over things that weren't important. So Razvan is happy that she wants him at the very American holiday of Thanksgiving. And then comes, like I said, the long, boring airport scene where there's dragging the bags and staring at each other for a very long goodbye, followed by some triumphant music. Okay, so he said that he's staying in this because this Amanda kind of showed her the person that she was before she came on this trip. I can already see you. They can't see you shaking your head.
I know.
Is that the real Amanda?
No, this is Amanda like freaking out because she's going to lose him. And it's like, it definitely occurs to me that she is one of those people that just hates to lose.
Yes, right? I literally said that when I was watching it. She's like, she just doesn't want to lose. Like,
no,
she
just doesn't want to lose.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to be the one who is rejected. And I feel like a lot of her behavior this entire season is because she always thought that she had the upper hand. Mm-hmm. She was the prize. She was the one who, you had to be patient for. She was the one who's going to make you wait. She's going to be the one that makes the decision whether or not this relationship's going to go. Mm-hmm. And then it got to the point where he was like, I don't know if I'm into this. You kind of suck. And then all of a sudden it's like, she's like, whoa, you're rejecting me? And so then all of a sudden she has to, play the role of someone who is actually loving in this relationship so he doesn't leave her.
Yeah. I mean, the way I put it was like, I definitely think that her, I don't want to be the loser in the relationship was definitely a driving factor. But it just is also like, especially for him, for like Razvan, I want to be like, shake him. And there's a couple different ways people say it. But, I kind of like the phrase that the real you is the person you are when no one's watching.
Yeah.
Right. And so to me, it's like, well, who was she when she felt secure in the relationship, when she felt that he wasn't going to break up with her? Was she loving? Was she romantic? No. Was she a total bitch all the time? Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
And so that's the real her. That's the her that's going to come back if you make a commitment to her. And she feels that's who she's always going to be when she feels like the relationship is secure, when she has it locked down.
Yeah, and I worry because, she can make excuses like that wasn't the best me because of XYZ. I was still getting over my, deceased husband, like all these excuses. But the fact that she was even capable of treating someone like that is also like, red flag. Like,
like when you had a bad day, this is how you treat everybody else. That's not okay. Right. And she had the excuses. And I think Razvan put it well kind of in the last episode where he's like, well, yeah, you can have all the reasons and you can give me all the reasons you did all the bad things. But the fact of the matter is you did the bad things and they hurt me. Right.
Yes.
And and that's where it is. So I just think it's like, I think he got hoodwinked, man. Like, I don't know why he believed her this time.
I don't either, but I think it's one of those things where once she goes back to, where she's Kentucky, Louisiana, I think Louisiana, yeah. Yeah, with her children, I think that she will eventually break up with him. I know it doesn't seem like it right now because she just doesn't want to lose, but she'll break up with him eventually.
No, because if she breaks up with him, she didn't lose. If she breaks up with him, right, yes.
Exactly,
and then you get back, the distance happens, things again. She's like, oh, this just isn't going to work. I can't, my kids and that thing. Yeah, I agree with that. That sounds about right to me.
Right. Okay, so speaking of another couple that, not always showing their best, Gino and Jasmine. So back in Michigan, Gino is trying to stay warm. It's been 5 months since he's left Panama. The whole visa process has been a nightmare, but he's feeling good because Jasmine finally has her visa interview in Panama. Gino is hugging the pillow Jasmine gave him because he misses her. Gino is making himself a crazy amount of coffee, as he says. His cousin Dana is coming over to help Gino decorate for the potential celebration after Jasmine hopefully passes the visa interview. It means a lot to Gino that Dana is being so supportive given his and Jasmine's past. Gino is hoping that Jasmine contains her crazy during the interview. Oh gosh, you hope too much. Jasmine is feeling weird not knowing what to expect. She just had her eyebrows tattooed, so she's peeling and freaking out about her looks and her foundation. She is dressed in a very bright magenta pantsuit. They've been waiting 18 months for this, and Jasmine is so stressed. Her friend Zuellen is driving Jasmine to her interview, and they're getting emotional about Jasmine potentially leaving. Jasmine tells her friend that if it doesn't work out with Gino, she'll come back, and she's only leaving for Gino. Jasmine is so nervous for her interview because she never wanted anything so badly. 90 minutes later, Jasmine calls Gino crying, saying that they're never going to be together. Jasmine says there was an issue with processing and she didn't actually have her visa interview after all. Jasmine says, how will she get approval if she can't even get an interview? Gino thinks that there has to be something else going on. Jasmine is sobbing and she's just inconsolable when she notices the flag decorations that Gino has in the background. She screams that she doesn't want to see the Panamanian flag as Gino tries to slink to the side so she doesn't see it anymore. Gino tries to get her to calm down, saying that they didn't say no, and at this point, Jasmine would rather hear a no than no answer. She feels like they're screwed and she's tired of feeling like her life is on hold. Jasmine says she just gives up and this is it. All right, so we know that that is obviously not true because they are on the next season of the regular
OG,
original 90 Day Fiance. So obviously they got a visa. But what do you think of Jasmine's dramatic?
Very dramatic. I mean, she is, at the end of the day, she is a drama queen. And she drama queen this up, right? She just took any bad news immediately. And this goes for things with Gino too. Any bad news, anything that upsets the apple cart in any way just goes from 0 all the way to 100 immediately. Like, this was not ideal, but I would be like the way she called, like we heard her call the first time and she's like, we're never gonna be together. Like, it was just like screaming,
we're never gonna be together. Yeah.
It was just like, oh my God, that interview must have went horribly. And then it turned out she didn't even have the interview. Like,
well, I also like to point out something. Do you think that Jasmine would have been more calm if there was an immigration lawyer involved? Because let's remind ourselves that they've been waiting 18 months. Gino promised that if it took 13 months that they would get a lawyer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if there was a lawyer, I don't know if it would have moved things along. They might have had the paperwork in order, but I don't know that they did.
Well, I mean, would it have made her feel better if there was a lawyer involved?
But No, because I feel like at this point she felt like it's like more or less the U.S. government conspiring against the two of them to keep them apart. The way she kind of put it in her speaking. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's just because the immigration office has like 10 people and they have to process they have to process 10,000 cases. It's just there's too much and they're overworked and things take forever.
Yeah, but I wonder a little bit if they had an immigration lawyer that she would have a little bit more information, because I think the frustrating thing about this is that she really doesn't have any information. And that's why she's like going to a very dark, worst case scenario place of we're never going to be together. And it's just like, you just didn't have the right paperwork, it sounds like, and they were just processing it.
Yeah, it's like sometimes when you go to the I'll say mine, when you go to the MVA to get your real ID, and sometimes you didn't have all the bills you needed, and you're like, well, God, now I got to come back later, right?
Yeah, right.
And but yeah, just to go off on that, because I am also relatively positive that she started getting upset. She started going to 100 in her head.
Yeah.
They probably explained to her what was going on and when things would change, and she just couldn't hear it because she was just like, all she could see was fire. Like she just saw fire. Like that's all. That's it. That said, by far the funniest moment in this episode was why are the fucking flags in the background? I don't want to see the Panamanian flag.
Yeah, and Gino's just like trying to sidestep out the view.
He's like, let me angle the camera. Because it was funny because that was like something that Gino like actually did that was nice. Is because he said we're going to have a celebration. Hey, Panama, U.S. Woot. And he like actually planned ahead and tried to do something nice for her. And she was just like, I don't want to see the goddamn flags.
Oh, Gino, he can never win.
Never. All right. Going back to, let's go to Mike, because I want to save the big guns for the end. So we'll do Christian and Cleo next.
Okay.
All right. So Christian is packing up to go, and both him and Cleo are sad. So she says she wants to keep something of his. Oh my God, this is the worst. This was the worst. And she's like has his hoodie in her arms. She's like, oh, can I keep that? And he's like, it's like literally my favorite hoodie. I guess fine, you can keep it. But I'm coming back for it. Like I'll be back, like kind of to reassure he's coming back. Anyway, so she has to pack her things too, because we have to remember this is an Airbnb that they pretty much just got. They could film there and not have the roommates be in the way. So Cleo's very, very broken up about him leaving. And she even gets the tears during the interviews talking about it. So she brings up her insecurities with him about talking to hot singles in bars and saying, I know that I'm worried about these things, but I'm trying to hold on to the positives. And then he stops her, kind of cuts her off and says, we need to work on trust, but there's some rough patches. That's what relationships are. So she tells him she wants to keep doing this because of the highs. The highs of the relationship have been so high, but I don't know. He again cuts her off and he's just like, let's just appreciate we had a good time and we're going to keep things going. So it really seems like she's terrified that he's going to get back to the States and then immediately dump her, which also sounds like is the sort of thing that has happened to her before. And so anyway, she walks out to the car and he starts trying to do like the Humphrey Bogart, here's looking at you thing from Casablanca. And
failing because she has no idea what's happening.
And she does not get it at all. Like, it's like, oh, wow, I should say kid. And it's like, stop, just stop, man. And he does stop probably later than he should. So he kisses her goodbye, and she literally can't even watch the car pull away. She turns her back to the car to watch it go, as it goes. So on the way out, he says that he knows she's kind of a mess, and he's just looking, trying to help her so that she can see the light in the relationship. So he says they'll definitely see each other again, but there's a lot of unknowns to overcome. So then we see Cleo leave the Airbnb with her amazing cat backpack. It's like a big clear backpack with both cats in it that she's walking down the street in. And Christian heads to the airport to go home. So he says on the plane that he messaged her saying that he already misses her, but doesn't know how he's going to feel when he gets back to the States. All right, so Cleo's prediction seems to be that Christian is going to get to the States and basically give her the text of, so we need to talk.
Yep.
That's going to be a breakup.
She's not wrong. And isn't she supposed to be a psychic or something?
Yeah. She's clairvoyant.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that happening for sure. I don't see this ending well. I think Christian's trying to make like a graceful exit, but at the same time, like we see like how he is with other people. He does not want to come off a certain way, right? Especially on this show. So he's going to maybe even keep it going a little bit longer than the tell-all. Like, I bet that they're still, quote, together on the tell-all, and even after. But will they ever see each other again? That. Yeah, I don't.
I can see that. I think he's aware enough of his presence and how he comes off to stay together through the tell-all. Yes. Yes. That sounds about right.
Maybe he'll be doing a fade out a little bit, like maybe not putting so much effort into the relationship and like talking to her all the time. But
it's just this sounded immensely like the beginning of a fade out. Like so hard. Like let's just appreciate the good times that we had and like, not let the other things the good times that we had, past tense. Moving forward, there will be fewer good times.
So I just, this is not a couple that's going to be around for, a 90-day regular season.
No,
and we're not going to see them again.
I actually find it like pretty fascinating that, despite the fact that Cleo is autistic, that she's picking up on those kind of cues. Like she was like, this seems like a fade out. Like this definitely seems like that's what's going on from the emotional cues, which is probably, really hard for her to pick up.
Yeah. Well, I would probably even venture to say that he's using this show to be on other shows like Single Life, or
why
one
would
of
you
the
pick him up
various
for Single
other.
Life? He's not even a good one.
No. Well, they picked the most awful people for that show anyway.
Right. So, I mean, he's not, when I say a good one, I don't mean a good person. Yes, the weirdest, awkwardest. They want awkward. They want weird. I guess he's creepy enough.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like
he's trying to get on that and Pillow Talk. That's what he's gunning for.
Pillow Talk, I definitely see. I think he's more aiming for Pillow Talk than for Single Life.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about another British couple here. We got Dempsey and Statler. So Statler is looking for Dempsey, wanting to talk. Dempsey wants to be left alone because she says that Statler not wanting kids is a deal breaker. Statler had no idea that Dempsey was so hell-bent on being a mother, but she doesn't want to lose their relationship over their differences in wanting kids. Statler asks if Dempsey is done with their relationship, and Dempsey says it's really on Statler to decide if she wants to have kids and stay in the relationship. Statler escapes to the bathroom, and Dempsey at one point tries to talk to her in the bathroom. 20 minutes later, Statler is still in the bathroom, and then she finally emerges. Dempsey says that this was all a surprise. Statler is saying that she doesn't feel good because of the conversation, and she just can't imagine having a child. Statler says that maybe she would change her mind in a couple of years, she just doesn't know. Statler asks if Dempsey wants to continue, even though it is a risk, because she's not sure how she will feel in the future. And Dempsey says she's willing to stick it out because there's at least hope that Statler will feel differently in the future. Statler is worried to be going home after this emotional conversation because there's a lot of uncertainty, and she's worried that Dempsey will second-guess their relationship. Dempsey and Statler are leaving Scotland and talking about how Statler can be moody sometimes. Dempsey doesn't want to be without Statler because she loves her so much. They get back to Dempsey's trailer for their last night together. Statler is relieved that the kids thing didn't break them up. She's wondering what the next step in their relationship is if Dempsey doesn't want her to move in right away. They try to make plans on when they'll see each other next. Statler jokes about being back in a week, and Dempsey then says that Statler can move in if she wants. Dempsey has been thinking about it every day if she could live with Statler. This is the biggest leap of faith she's taken, but she's ready to take the next step and live together. Statler says there might be some changes she would make to adjust to farm life. Statler will be moving in 4 weeks. She's a little nervous that Dempsey might break up with her in the next month because that's what happens with her ex. Dempsey says she's feeling a bit of pressure because she wonders if Statler will be happy with particularly the bathroom situation. Dempsey recognizes that Statler living with her will be hard because they both will have to adapt to change. They have emotional goodbye at the airport. Okay, do you think that these two are just lying to each other to get through this relationship?
Yes, they are. What the hell? Like, they were
so
like,
infuriating.
It was so infuriating. They're like, 'cause at some point they said, I'm really glad we moved past that kid thing so we could get here. I was like, you didn't move past it. You just kicked it down the road.
Right.
You both were like, I definitely want kids. I definitely don't. And then when you realized that meant you were going to break up, you both went back to, all right, maybe.
Well, maybe we're open to.
Maybe my mind will change in the future. Like, yeah. And especially that. It was like, I'm a hard no right now, but who knows what the future holds? And it's like, that's no, that's not how this works. Like, that is still a no. You can't say, maybe in the future I'll be a completely different person and then things will work out. Let's keep going. Like, no, that's so infuriating. And the fact that they were both like, glad we worked that out. It's like, you worked nothing out.
Right.
Nothing was
no,
worked.
They absolutely didn't. No, like, it doesn't make any sense. And I mean, like, and I kind of get it too, because let's say they were on the same page. That doesn't mean in 2 years' time, like they're saying, like they would still be on the same page.
Well, that's
so, I mean,
yeah.
At that point, you know, you're right. Like, everything is a risk, but it is infuriating that they didn't actually resolve anything, and they're just hoping that one of them will change their mind in a couple of years.
One of them will magic. Because yes, people do change their minds, and people do have changes of heart. And you're right. Because just because she says she wants, if she does say she wants kids now, just because she says now, it doesn't mean that if it doesn't happen in 3 years down the road that she's still going to want to. But that's the leap of faith that you take. Right? That somebody you're on the same page with now, you'll remain on the same page. You don't take the leap of faith that you're on completely different pages, hoping that in the future you'll be on the same page. Like, that's not how that works. And that's basically what they're doing, and it's infuriating.
Oh gosh, I know, it was so frustrating.
Yeah, and I also don't know. I can't figure out what changed that now it's okay that she can move in.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they have been living in close quarters for however long. Like, it's been 3 weeks, right? So she's like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad. The thing that, like, I am worried about, though, for them is just, I just don't see, like, how they're going to be in these enclosed spaces and, like, really, like, be true to both who they are.
Yes.
Right.
Have the independence that you need to have to be your own person. Right. And that's kind of what a thing was. And I think that if you ask Statler about that, she's like, what are you talking about? I don't want to be my own person. This is my person and I'm attached to them. And that's what we do. That's what a relationship is. I don't think Dempsey is that. No. And I think that's now that she's right now in those early stages of the infatuation stage of relationships where you do kind of want to be with them all the time. That seems okay. And that doesn't stay okay when that relationship evolves. And I don't think Statler has any desire for that relationship to evolve past that ever.
Well, part of it too is I feel like Statler just is always getting her way. She just bulldozes right over Dempsey. Like, I want to move in. I don't want to have kids.
Well, Dempsey, kind of, took what she said and listened to her. And but everything Statler wanted, she got. Yeah. Everything. Like, I don't want to really talk about the kids now. Great, you got that. I want to move in. Great, you got that. Also, can I talk about this? Where is she getting a visa? How can she just move to England? I just decided.
Well, you can kind of, like, you just have to do visa runs like every 90 days, but you could be there for 90 days.
I guess. So you're staying on the visitor visa indefinitely.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you could do that. You just have to, like, leave the country every 90 days and then, like, come back. And I mean, they will after a while, like, stop you depending on, how you're crossing, and they might ask you about it. Like, I had a friend who, her partner, he would he worked on a ship somewhere out by Australia or something like that. But he would come home, come to the US. He wasn't an American citizen. He would come to the US for like 2 months at a time or a month at a time every couple of months. And so he was coming to the US quite a bit, and he spent quite a bit of his time in the US. And he started to get freaked out because Border Patrol, or immigration definitely started to interview him when he would come into the country, because they would see that you have all these stamps, coming back and coming in.
Well, coming out and coming in. And I can see, came here. Well, because I would see that. Like if you were in England and you were like, wow, weird how every 3 months you have a stamp 1 day apart. Like,
but technically there's no rules against it, right? But then they start asking questions about, like, what is your business here? Like, are you working? What are you doing?
I think there are rules against it, actually. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but like, I think a lot of the visitor visas, you're not supposed to have more than
half of the year, I think.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
All right. So last up, and this is like I said, the big gun saving him for last is Riley and Violet. Because Riley is back home with his cigar collection, smoking indoors again. Things have been confusing for him. It's been a couple weeks since he got back from Vietnam. He says that when he landed, he got some nasty texts from Violet telling him it's over and please block me, which was confusing to me. Why didn't she just block him? Anyway, so then he texted then she tried texting a few weeks after that and was like being nice. So he doesn't know what's going on. And obviously he didn't block her like he asked because he got these new texts. So he reads some of the messages and it's very much like, I'm sorry I messed up. I want to marry you now. I also note that they had like a screenshot of the phone at this point. And this is what bothered me. The picture that, the contact photo was definitely like not her. Or not anything approaching someone that looked like her. Anyway, so producers asked if he's done, and he says he's very undecided if the relationship is even fixable. So he's going to pause and reflect on what's happened. But he can only pause for a little while because a few weeks later, he gets a surprising bit of news from Violet. She told him that she's pregnant with his baby. So it's been about a month since he left, so the timing is right, and he's shocked and confused. He thought this whole thing was over. He says that on the last night he was there. So I'm assuming that this is, after they said their goodbyes and production left, he was in his hotel room and she came back. And he's like, when she came back, the way he put it, had a little bit of fun, especially because he's 6'4" and she's 5'2", evidently.
God.
He's like, what do you think? Yeah. So anyway, he describes how one thing led to another and what that actually means, like in detail, what one thing led to another means. So his friend Tiffany, who he's telling all this to, he also says he didn't bring any protection with him on the trip because doctors told him that he's on a medication that gives him he's less than like a 1% chance that he could father a child when he's on this medication. So Riley has his suspicions that Violet is lying either about being pregnant or him being the father. So he offered to pay for all of her prenatal care if she goes to the doctor that he found at the International Hospital that speaks English and can actually tell him what's going on. So she refused, saying she already has a doctor. They had like more conversation after that, and Violet eventually is kind of like, let's just cut to the chase. Why don't you just marry me? So Tiffany thinks this is just Violet trying to cash in this pregnancy for a green card. But that doesn't really seem right to Riley because he was like, if she was just trying to get a green card, then she would have been nice to me when we were in Vietnam. And she was definitely not. So he doesn't know what to believe, including whether or not he's even the only guy that she's seeing. So he just hopes that he's not being played. All right, so let's just start where he left off there. Is he being played?
There are definitely a lot of valid reasons to be suspicious.
Yes.
And having nothing to do with, what he describes as Violet kind of being a liar or shady. I think in combination with like his accusations of her being that way, it's just like it just would look so bad if all of this ended up being true, and it's just like, I don't know. It's one of those things where I feel like he should have played it maybe a different way just for optics sake. You never want to be the eventual dad who, was like saying like hurtful or like, just or having a bad reaction to the whole thing, and so it's just, yeah. But I understand.
There's plenty of circumstantial things going on here that makes it sound heavily suspect. Right?
Oh, for sure. And I'm not saying that, but I think he's got to like be very delicate about it.
He does, but he also doesn't want to, in the issue for optics, end up having to pay child support forever for a kid that's not his.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Right,
I'm not
like-
saying that. Absolutely not. Yeah, but I do think it was a pretty good move on his part to offer, like, hey, go see this doctor.
I think so
Yeah.
too. And that's one of the lesser red flags, especially when you have like I know plenty of women that they like their gyno. And they're like, no, I'm not going to go to another one. I like this one.
Yeah. But I could also see like the carrot being, like, well, I'll pay if you go to this doctor.
Sure. But I don't know. It might be one of it's not America. Like, what do you mean pay?
Yeah.
We have free health care. I go to this
Right,
doctor and
sure.
it's paid for. What are you talking about pay?
Yeah.
Right. So there's some of that. I don't know. Also with the, I mean, I think that her age is is a thing too, because
Yeah. That's
right?
why I was like, this is like a miracle baby, right?
Yes.
Getting through the medication at her older age, with one time only,
Yes.
all these things. It's like, this truly is a miracle baby.
Right. And so that's what especially when we add in, remember we had Shido with her going to her doctor,
Yeah.
well, at your age, there's less than a 5% chance you'll ever be pregnant.
Right.
So there's a 5% chance you'll ever be pregnant. We have a 1% chance that any sperm can get through this medication that he's taking. And this is very, very low. And so it's almost like with all of those things combined, it almost seems like the more likely story is that she was already pregnant when he was there. And she was like, all right, I got to sleep with this guy just so we can convincingly tell him that this is his kid. Right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I can also see her, saying this to get whatever kind of reaction out of him.
Yeah.
Or get the thing that she wants. Maybe she really does want a green card.
Which is also, I feel for Riley, as much of a dickhead as he is, in that I don't know what the hell she wants. Like 1 minute she's like, break up with me, I hate you, I never want to see you again. Why aren't you marrying me? Oh, I want you back. Oh, actually you're an asshole and I never want to see you again. Like, what do you want? I don't know.
Yeah, but I could also see, someone possibly, playing the pregnancy card to kind of get what she wants in there. And then it's not like he has to see her on a day-to-day basis. And then it's like pretty easy to be like, oh, lost the baby,
Right.
just kidding. Or even forget losing the baby. Like, oh, it was a false positive. Like I wasn't really ever pregnant, but I didn't know that,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it definitely has the look of chicanery, especially, and that's what I was saying, especially with her inconsistent, weird messaging, of her her playing him hot and cold the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is definitely suspicious, but
Yeah.
it's not a great look for anybody.
Right. Okay. So that pretty much wraps up. I mean, other than the tell-all, which I think will be interesting because, there are some loose ends, and not even loose ends as in loose storylines other than this Riley and Violet. They're the only real loose storylines. But a lot of couples that you're just like, these people shouldn't be together. I wonder if they made it at least to the tell-all.
Right. Well, one thing we did saw that was spoilerish is Jasmine is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
that's something. And Amanda really doesn't want to talk to her.
Yeah. Well, because I feel like Jasmine would destroy her, and I don't think Amanda can handle that. But I mean,
No.
at the same time, it's like, yeah, of all people to come at her,
Yeah. I tell you what I do like is I do like the idea that they're doing it with a studio audience.
Yes.
I'm interested to see how that goes because we're sitting here. Everyone I've seen on the online and our podcast and other podcasts, everyone hates Amanda. They're like, this girl, this lady is. But I feel like what often happens when we have the tell-all is that we're like, oh, they're going to get Amanda. Everybody's going to come after her. They're going to tell her all she is. And they all support her. And they're all like, oh, you're great. Oh, I can't believe it's been so hard with the husband, right? And that's because the cast members are also narcissistic assholes.
Right.
Right. And so they go with it. But the audience is not. And I feel like the audience is going to be more in tune with and been reading the same social media stuff that we've been reading about people and be like, so I think the audience is going to be more likely to, pile on to the correct people.
Yeah, I hope so. I think another thing that could happen too is that, they can't be as creative with their editing because there's more witnesses.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. All right. So out of the group we saw this week, who was your student of the week?
This was so hard.
I know.
This was so hard. I literally went through everybody and came up with Gino for putting up decorations. Like that's the best. He had a plan, I guess, to keep his person happy that failed. I really hated everybody else.
Yeah, it was difficult. Yeah, I went with Meisha just because she wasn't being forceful about spending a lot of money on a ring.
I guess, yeah. I was like, I was avoiding Meisha because she was like, "Why are you agreeing to marry this guy?" And annulment. And also, I didn't quite understand why she was like, "Well, we have to wait till this annulment comes out before we even start the K1." And I was like,
"Yeah, that's
the K1's going to be at least a year. Like, start it." Like,
yeah, y'all are both of you. You're not getting any younger,
right? Yeah.
All right. What about your dunce?
So. I will say this. I don't know which one is actually the dunce, but it's either Violet or Riley, depending on the results of a paternity test.
Yeah. Okay. I could jump on board with that. Yeah, I agree. All right. What about your life lesson?
So this goes, and I was really pumping it, but don't say yes to something, especially when you're changing your answer to yes, when the underlying issues for the reason you said no aren't resolved yet. Yeah, my life lesson was along those same lines. Don't just give an answer to keep a relationship alive when that literally was a deal breaker the day before. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, let's just go back to pretending we didn't have that conversation and like we both said maybe, okay? Yes. Yeah. Like, that's so stupid. Dumb. Yeah, stupid. All right. Well, I'm actually kind of looking forward to this tell-all, especially after this kind of like snoozer of a last episode. Yeah. And I think it's a 2-part tell-all. Yes, I think so. Better. I think they said that the first episode of Before the 90 Days is October 8th, so that would give us 2. Or no, it's going to be it's OG next. You said Before the 90. Oh, sorry. Yes, I meant whatever the next season is. Yeah. Yeah, right. Regular 90 day. Regular 90 day, on the which 8th. Only has one returning couple, which is always exciting for me. Yes, very much so. It'll be an interesting group. The ones that have been revealed to be on it, definitely sounds like a lot of like Bennifer, like J-Lo, Ben Affleck, like, went their separate ways, came back together. Yeah, trying to make it work second time around. Sure. Okay, so we'll be back again this time next week with the first part of the tell-all. So until then. All right, talk to everybody then. Okay, bye. Okay, bye.